Cougar Academy Algebra 2. Welcome to lesson 5.2. And today we're going to be sketching graphs of polynomial functions and using graphing calculators to approximate the real zeros, maximum, and minimums. You definitely need a graphing calculator for this one, okay? So no other really way around it. Make sure you have one of those. If you need to borrow one, of course, let me know. So we're going to be graphing x to the fourth. That's the first time I think many of you have probably graphed something like this. So right under y equals, first let's make sure we're all in the same spot. So second, let's just leave this go to second plus 7, 1, 2. Clear out our RAM, make sure we're all there. And we're going to go to y equals again, and we'll type in x to the fourth minus 3x squared and minus 2x and plus 1. We'll hit graph and we'll see what's going on here. So we got quite the funky looking graph here. Let's change our window. So our first step is, this is basically a calculator trick today. So let's change the window in order to match up our graph here. So we can see it goes from -8 to +8. Well, our window, if we simply hit window right here, boop, 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 we'll see it's set up from -10 to 10. Well, the x, okay, when it says x min and x max, we want it to be -8 to 8, whereas for the y's, we can change it from +8 to -8 on the y-axis. So we're just going to change these, and it'll just give us a better look as to what it wants us to graph here. So change the window, and it just zooms in a little bit for us. So we got a lot going on here. We have a funky looking graph. A few things we're going to find. So when I say approximate the zeros, zeros are where it crosses the x-axis. Crosses x-axis. A maximum is a peak. Okay, so maybe where the graph goes up. And a minimum is the bottom of a valley. And that's maybe where the graph touches down. So if we are just going to sketch this one, we have quite a few things going on here. So the first thing I recommend we'll find are the zeros. So for this graph here, we're going to approximate the zeros. And it looks like there are 2 of them. It crosses here and here. Okay. To find our zeros, this is a tricky thing to do on the calculator. So we are going to go to second trace, and your window should look like this. Now, we're going to use quite a few of these, so get used to this window. Hit 2 for 0. Okay, now, I'm just going to draw a little sketch of this here. You don't have to necessarily do it, but it's going to help us to find things here. Okay, so the first 0 is where this blue point is. So when you're setting up your calculator, it's going to ask for a left and right bound. You want to set the left bound somewhere to the left of that point. So anywhere to the left of that point will work. So anywhere I kind of shaded in pink there to the left. Now the right bound, you want it to be anywhere to the right of that point. So anywhere to the right, as long as it's to the right of that point, will work. Okay, so it's not, you don't have to be super particular, but notice in between my range, okay, that's where it's looking for the 0. So you don't have to do anything for guess. You can just hit enter again, and it'll narrow it down for you. And we have the 0, approximately 0.33 or 34 and 0. Okay, you can do your best to graph that. There's 0.340 about there. Okay, this is going to take some practice. So let's now practice finding the other 0. So if you didn't get that one, we'll try again. So again, the graph kind of looks like this. This time we'll find that 0. So second trace, 0. Left bound. Again, you can be anywhere to the left of that point. So right there would be about fine. Right bound, let's go to the right of that point. Okay, hit enter. Another thing to note, try and be a little close. So probably for these green, you probably want to be left here. You don't want to encompass 2 zeros. So we'll just hit enter again. And this time we have 1.9, comma 0. Now, I know it says negative 1.2 e to the negative 12. Negative 1.2 e to the negative 12. That's just really, it just means 0. Okay? So don't let that scare you. It just means 0. It's just your calculator can be funky sometimes. So 1.9, that's about at 2, and about there. Now, the other things we need to find, we're going to have a max and a min. We're actually going to have 2 minimums. A minimum, and we'll have a max. Now, the minimum, the first one, is right about here. So if you look, it's right about where that circle just appeared. So let's try and find that point. So minimum is 3. I'm going to go again. You have to do the same idea. Left bound, right bound of where you think it is. So about there. Go over again. About there. Hit enter. And about negative 0.999991. We'll round that one up. So negative 1, comma 1. That's fine. Negative 1, 1. Good deal. Now, it's hard to see, but there is a max, okay, in here. So let's trace, and we'll have to find a maximum. So within here, there's going to be a little peak somewhere. And I'll set my range up to find it. And right in there, I see there's a max at negative 0.37 and about 1.3. So negative 0.37. Again, pretty bad to try and graph it, but do your best. And the last one we'll find is going to be a minimum, and that's going to be at the bottom here. So that one's a little easier to see. And 1.36, I guess 1.37, and negative 3.8. So 1.37, negative 3.8, about there. So now we found all that stuff. Again, it's going to be challenging. It's going to take you some practice with your calculator. We'll go through some more. Another thing to do is maybe get some nice points from our calculator. So the table can provide us with some nice points. Okay, they're just nice coordinates for us. So I could see 0 and 1. So over 0, up 1. That's another point. And I'm just going to try and pick a few that'll fit here. Over 2, up to 1. And let's see, 1 to negative 3. And if we go up, negative 1 to 1, we got that already. Negative 2 to 9, that one won't fit. And with those extra points on there, what we can just try and do is really just try and do our best to sketch, to connect the dots and to sketch it. Okay, I'm not going to be super picky about the exact location like negative 1.37. I am going to expect that you can get close to these values and the zeros, and just do your best, of course, with graphing otherwise. Okay. So I know there's a lot going on there, but let's try something like number 2. Okay. Practice this process, and we'll go under y equals. We'll clear it out, and we'll do next to the third equation. So minus x squared minus 4. Okay. Graph, again, our window's already adjusted, so that's nice. And let's just get an idea as to what's going on here. So let's take a look. So it looks like it's going like that there, kind of. That's pretty funky. It's pretty. Okay. So let's see what all we got going on. We have a 0, so that's going to be one of the zeros. It looks like we'll have a minimum. And we can maybe look for a maximum. One thing we can always do as well is let's zoom in. So you can always zoom in a little bit and see if we can maybe find some more. Oh, I zoomed in too much. So zoom out. But sometimes you might want to, I don't know, play with the window a little bit. Just if you ever panic, just go back to the standard window. So I want to see what's going on a little bit better. I'm going to zoom it in here. We'll do 5, negative 5. And the y's, let's just go down to negative 6. So see how that helped out? I zoomed in, and I can see this kind of curves a little more. So it does look like there's a minimum and a maximum within there. So sometimes, and this is just calculator practice, okay, you might just need to zoom in, get comfortable with doing that. So I'm going to have a max and a min around there. Tell you what, guys, you want a little sneak peek? If this is too much for you too, since you're at home, let's go to Desmos.com. Desmos.com. Pardon me if it takes a little bit of time here to load up. The suspense will be worth it. Desmos.com. Okay, and I'm just going to have the equation here ready. And I'll let you use this. I know you're learning at home. Now the thing is, if you're ever expected to do these things on, say, a Keystone exam or a college exam, you will not have this ability. So I'd like you to be comfortable using your calculator. So there we have it. If we type in that equation, this is really nice because you can click and you can zoom and everything, and we can clearly see that at 0, negative 4 is a maximum. Okay, so 0, negative 4 is our maximum. If I go back to Desmos again, I can zoom in and see that negative or 0.67, negative 4 is a minimum. Again, 6, 7, or 0.7, and negative 4.1. Again, the best you can. 0.7, 4.1. And then we can also zoom into our 0. So I'll zoom out and I'll see where it crosses. And it's right at 2, 0. So that's nice. to 0 is the 0. Now Desmos, or still in your old calculator, it can still find some other points for us. So 1, negative 4, over 1, down negative 4, so there's that one. 0, negative 4, negative 1 to negative 6. And it doesn't look like we can plot too much else. And that will give us a nice look there. So Desmos, I'll let you use that, but please be comfortable. Try it in your calculator a few times. And then the other practice problems are great for you for Desmos. So do your best with those. Calculator, approximate zeros. The rest of the problems are all practice for you. So good job, guys.